Yeah, I recently had a chance to talk with Teresa Weatherall Neal. Teresa was the superintendent of the Grand Rapids Public Schools for a number of years, and she's a person who I knew before she was superintendent. She worked in the school system. I had a chance to work with her very closely while she was superintendent. But she's a person that when you talk to her, you think you've known her your whole life. And you just appreciate the fact that you have a chance to know someone with the character, with the determination, with the courage, and with the positive outlook that she has. She had great success with the student performance at Grand Rapids Public Schools when she was a superintendent. She did things differently. She engaged with the community. We're going to talk about all those sorts of things of what she did. But the best thing about her is that she stayed engaged. She is living a life of helping others and has just a perspective and a belief system that is really contagious. And so I hope that you enjoy the conversation and hope that you're able to really take to heart her example and what her leadership style and her character can really mean for all of us. So enjoy.
We believe and have always believed in this country that man was created in the image of God, that he was given talents and responsibilities and was instructed to use them to make this world a better place in which to live. And you see, this is the really great thing of America.
It's time to discover what binds us together, and finding it has the power to transform our world. That's what I believe. How about you? Teresa, this is going to be so much fun. Thank you so much for coming here and joining us on Believe. This is great.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we've known each other a long time.
Yes.
And I'm thrilled to say that because I've really enjoyed our relationship and respected all the work that you have done and accomplished. But a lot of other people may not know that. And that's why I was really excited to have this time to be together with you, because you have so much success, but so much to share, and so it's been a lot of fun to watch you.
Yeah. So we have. I've known you a long time, and it actually started when I was a secretary in the Grand Rapids Public Schools, and just having the audacity to come to you. But I started as a student in the Grand Rapids Public Schools in 1964. So I started as a kindergartner, and went all the way through GRPS. Until I was 17, graduated at 17, graduated early. But prior to graduating, my senior year, the then superintendent, Phil Runkle, asked me if I would take a full-time job. I was a co-op student on the 5th floor, GRPS. And I told him, I said, no, my parents won't let me come out of school early. They were pretty strict about education. And he said, they'll be okay. I said, well, they're not in town. And he said, well, you'll just start here on Monday full-time. And I thought, my parents are going to kill me. But I said, okay. I was working 3 hours a day as a co-op student, and left Creston High School as a senior and started working full-time and stayed there from 1977, early 77, until 2019.
Isn't that amazing? And just to talk about Grand Rapids Public Schools, tell us when you were superintendent, how many students, how many buildings, how many staff? Give us an idea of the size and the scope of the work that you did.
It's funny because even when I was asked to step in as an interim superintendent, I thought, boy, do I really want to do this? I can be a shy person. I'm very friendly, but I'm a shy person. I'm really good behind the scenes. And I thought, I just don't want to live out loud. And so my youngest daughter, I was trying to decide what should I do, and she said, I grew up hearing you pray for kids, and now it's your time. How could you not do it? Right? And so that was really the decision. I thought, you know what, you're right. Okay, it's not about me, I'm going to do it. And I knew that I had to close schools. I also knew they wanted me to just sort of hold still for a while, and I thought, if I'm going to be the interim superintendent, I'm going to work starting day one. There was no such thing as just being still, right? And I had a great board at the time, and they allowed me to not act as an interim superintendent, but to actually be the superintendent. And so we had over 50 buildings, over 3,000 employees, and almost 19,000 students. But it didn't feel so large.
It's a big organization, though.
It's a huge organization, over $300 million budget, but it didn't feel big to me. And it's because every decision that I made, I could attach it to someone, right? So even though there were a lot of people, I could picture my grandson or my granddaughter or a teacher or a principal, someone that I knew. And I was blessed because I did know the organization so well. Yeah. I knew every decision was going to affect someone that I cared about, right? I loved the school system, still love TRPS, but I love the system, I love the employees, love the parents. So every decision I made it as if it was going to really affect someone that I knew, right?
And that's how you live your life, though.
I do.
That's how you live your life.
I do.
So talk about that a little bit. You talked about your parents and Superintendent Runkle at the time. Yeah. You talked about your parents. How did your young years get shaped by your parents, and how did that turn you, or help shape you throughout your life, throughout your career?
So this is partly telling secrets, but
that's good. That's what we're here for.
Right. So my dad was really strict, and the rules on whatever they were on Sunday, they were the same on Friday. Now we didn't always follow, but you didn't have to guess where he was coming from.
Okay.
Right? He made it real clear. And I had 9 brothers and sisters, and the rules were one thing for boys and one thing for girls. I mean, I have 7 sisters, but he absolutely had different rules for my brothers. But he didn't allow any of us to make excuses, right? He was a hard worker. He didn't believe in the welfare system. And I'm not saying anything against the welfare system, so don't come after me. I'm just saying my parents didn't believe in it. Right? That wasn't something that my parents, you have 10 kids, you take care of 10 kids, you educate 10 kids. I mean, just really strict, really, really strict. We had a family business. We all had to work, right, in the business, Simonizing cars. And he worked for C&O Railroad. Okay. And so you didn't have to guess what the rules were.
He told you pretty clearly.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And when you didn't follow him, there were consequences, right? Right. Yeah. So, but it was great growing up with so many brothers and sisters, and they all either ended up with a master's or higher education, except for my one sister, Denise. Denise is 62 and special needs, but she's earned a few pensions. My dad made her go to work. Yeah. Again, the rules were the rules, right?
Yes,
you had to go to work. Yeah. And she retired in March. We're so proud of her. 62, retired after years of working. He just didn't allow us to make excuses.
Right. What a testament, though. I mean, to we'll talk more about your career and you celebrate careers, but to celebrate your family.
Oh yeah.
Look at what was accomplished, and okay, there are some strict rules. I'm sure there's more stories there that we're not going to go into here today about you growing up with your with your siblings. Yes. But look what you accomplished.
And we're all the same. So they're all like me, basically, right? So when we all get together, you can imagine 9 Teresas. That's too many for anybody. But we're all sort of the same, right?
I would love that.
Yeah. We have a great time. I love them. Funny, and we each have our role in the family, but great, just hardworking people, right? Beautiful people. I am the only one probably out of them all that's more around social justice.
Okay.
Right? Like I said, we each had our different personalities. When I became superintendent of schools, they weren't impressed. You should have been. You've been there. And my mother would have said the same thing. Yeah. You've been there long enough to be the superintendent, right?
I mean, sure, that's an easy accomplishment.
Right. Yeah, so, but I've always been one to help people, right? Always been one to fight. There's got to be a better way, right? There's got to be a better way. And I believe in people. I got engaged in 1977 to Dennis, right? Straight out of high school. Married Dennis in 78. Praise God, we're still married.
Yes.
But I've always been determined right?
Yeah.
To do right by someone, to try to help the next person.
Yeah.
So I think it's just my personality, and education is one way of doing that, right? But not the only way. But
Not the only way.
yeah.
Well, talk about a little bit about your career. So you start part-time while you're in school. You take an early job, and maybe your mother thought it was easy, but it's not easy to work through a career or an organization that big and that complex with the skills that you need. How did you develop, and how'd you develop those skills? What are some of the lessons that you learned along the way to the various roles that you had? What were some of the roles that you found the most enjoyable or interesting on your way to being superintendent?
That's a great question. So I started in 1975 as a student worker, and back then we called them co-op, voc ed, I'm not real sure. A student worker and career realization, 2 hours a day, just after school. And that was central office. We were at Community JC at the time.
And you're working while you're going to school?
I went to school. I was in the 10th grade when I started working in the Grand Rapids Public Schools, we called it fifth floor back then. And just one job right after the other. When Phil Runkle asked me to become a full-time employee, it was to become the receptionist, the main receptionist. Absolutely love that job. I love talking to people.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah,
I love talking to people. I was a great switchboard operator.
I love it.
And I said, I think there's an article in the Grand Rapids Press that this is the best job ever. I absolutely loved it. And then from there, I became a secretary. And I loved it. More isolated though, away from people. But I was good at it. I've always been a hard worker. Became a secretary, and then just continued to move on. I went to college when after I had children. Dennis and I had kids, and I went to college, and that was in about the late 70s. I think I went to community college. It was because of my sister. She was like, "We should take a class during lunch," and I was like, "Yeah." But my boss at the time, he said, "Oh, sure, that would be great." Okay. And so I took a class, organizational behavior, literally fell in love with it, and went to school for the next 13 years, 3 days a week, even during the summer, 2-3 days a week. I never took a break until I finished my master's degree. Just stuck with it, and then every step of the way, someone gave me a promotion. I never had to apply. Someone would always tap me and say, "Hey, are you willing to take this job?" When I met you, I was the secretary, and but again, just always looking for extra opportunities to broaden my knowledge and to help more people. And so whether it was an advocate during hearings or working, trying to find tutoring for athletes, right? I've always believed that, but for the grace of God, right? There were so many kids that I went to school with, that I grew up with at South Middle School, that didn't have the opportunity, didn't have the parents that I had, but wonderful people. They're still some of my best friends, but I knew they just needed an opportunity. And had they had someone to help them, they could have done more, right? Some may have taken one turn in life, but because they didn't have people. It's not because they couldn't do it, right? And so I've always just wanted to help, right? Yeah. I married the very person, right, that the schools normally would have put out, right? Dennis didn't like school. Okay. And it wasn't because he couldn't do it. You have to find the right program for students. We talk about this now, the School of Aviation. Right?
Sure.
Because that would have been the school for him.
For Dennis, yeah.
Right? He still thinks that's the greatest thing ever, and what an opportunity for kids. But we didn't have those opportunities back then, especially as black kids. We didn't have those opportunities that we have now. And one of the reasons why I believe in choice, people, how can you be a public school superintendent and believe in choice? Because I married the very person that didn't have a choice,
wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And it really shaped my leadership.
Sure.
It really, everything I did was because of students like Dennis, right? Sometimes we have to remove barriers. Sometimes we have to hold their hand. We have to create different opportunities, right? I did very well in a traditional school. Some of us do, but it isn't for everyone, right?
And you talk about you talk about this balance, if you will, of creating an opportunity. As you said, some people create opportunities, and you recognize that. but you had to perform. And you had to take you had to lean into that opportunity. You had to take that risk and go forward. It's a balance. It's a relationship, isn't it?
It is a balance. But you know, I think one of the things, Doug, is you have to have faith, right? I do believe, because I prayed, right? I would pray before I would make those decisions. And literally ask God to show up before I walked in the room. I can say it now because I'm not the superintendent, right? But I'd ask God, you know, walk in first, right? Show me what I need to know when I walk in that room, because you know you make very difficult decisions, and you're not going to please everyone, but you have to represent the majority, right? Even those hard decisions, and I did it. But I will tell you, as a leader, especially of a large organization, because one stroke of a key, I could affect 100,000 people, right? You take the employees, students, their parents, right? The community. I mean, it's 100,000 people so you can't jerk a system.
Yeah, your decisions impact the whole of the community.
Absolutely. And so that was one of the things that I was always aware that was on me, right? That I was going to one decision. And you don't know. As a leader, you have to pray about it. You have to, it's really a higher power than you, right, in order to lead and make those calls. But I think the other thing that I did, I wasn't afraid or ashamed to come and ask people to help me, right? Because you can't lead in a vacuum. And you need a diverse group of folks that you can trust. And I'm not saying this, you know, just everyone, but you need to be able to run things by people. And so I had segments of the community say, this is what I'm thinking, right? Because you can't see everything, right? What am I missing? And so I led with the community. I just happened to be sitting in the seat, but it was the community. We all did this together. We did this. Now, I may have been the face of it, right? But it really was the community that got behind me, because I went to them and said, I don't know, right? This is what I'm thinking. What are you thinking, Doug? Right. What are you thinking, Dick? I went to my board members. I went to just people I know, right? I went to parents. I went to people I grew up with. What would have worked for you, right? The people that I know took a left. And they would say, well, Lynn, this is what I would have done, right? Or had we had this. I think you just take everything together, and you have to be the best leader that you can. Did I get it all right? No.
But you got a lot right. I mean, there's a few things. I mean, one of the biggest measures I think that we all come back to and talk about is graduation rates. And so you had graduation rate when you started that was below 45%, and when you left it was over 70%. 25-point difference because you made decisions, and those were not easy decisions. You had to make a lot of tough decisions. You had to make a lot of school closure decisions. You had to make a lot of starting new schools, doing things differently. Talk about a few of those that you think may have shaped that time.
I think part of it was accountability, and not to say that prior to me becoming superintendent, people were not held accountable. But again, I think when you can take a system that's so large and shrink it, right? So when you look at those students, and let's look at the students that are supposed to graduate. What are you missing? Remember, I married him. I married him, right? And so no one came to Dennis to say, Dennis, what do you need? Now, had they done that, it could have been a simple answer. Right? But you can't let people just fall by the wayside. And it was just really shrinking the system, looking at students. I think that's one. I also think that motivating students. I started the senior, instead of them skipping school, skip with me, right? Skip with me. And so twice a year, just bringing kids together to play games. They won prizes. But it became prideful that they wanted to graduate. Right, because only those students, the second time around, only the students that were able to walk across the stage could participate. Wow. And sometimes our kids are not able to be kids. And so we had, whether it's bounce houses, I mean, whatever it was, but to let them be friends, right? And took students across, and friendly competition, but across the entire city to allow that. kids would say, oh, I'm going to senior day. I can't wait for senior day, right? Wow. But they knew, and not only that, their classmates helped them to get there. And I think that's really what family is all about, right? It takes all of us. Yeah. And those students, it was going to take all of them to help, right? Help your students out.
But you applied, as I'm listening here, accountability in a new, maybe a different way. As you said, not to say it wasn't there before, right, but in a new, different way. And you take a word that in the education space can have a lot of different connotations and can divide people about, maybe if you don't call it choice, but you said opportunity, or you brought it to the individual to think about that differently without getting caught up in that.
That's right.
In the distractions. You talk about motivation. You talk about relationships. Those are things that are timeless, but you had a special knack of being able to apply those because you were the hallmark of the greater definition of family. You always would talk about that. These are our kids. This is our town. This is our community. This is our school.
Right. And I just took what my parents did for us, right, and applied it and so it didn't seem so large. But I also think you have to have the courage to lead.
Yes.
I do have courage.
Yes. Yes.
Right? I have courage. And I'm not afraid to be.
Yes, you do. I can validate that personally. If anyone wants to know, yes, that is the case. She has lots of it.
And I'm not afraid to be vulnerable.
Yes.
Right? Part of being a leader is being vulnerable. Yeah. Right? I could laugh at myself. Yeah. Right? I'm the first to laugh at myself. But I can be vulnerable, and I don't get offended very easily. Yeah. Yeah. Right? It's like, well, that didn't work. I didn't do that very well, right? I mean, so even when people would say mean, horrible things about me or write things about my weight, that doesn't bother me, right? Yeah. You didn't take it on the chin. Like,
you can't laugh at everybody.
I do.
You say, come on.
Right, come on, you didn't mean that.
Start with something real.
Right. That's the best you can do. That's right. Yeah, I don't get offended.
But that's hard. You have, and I don't. It's not like a thick skin or thin skin. You have an inner strength, like you say, that courage from the inside out. That because you also never got angry. I remember in some of those times where somebody would say something or they'd be frustrated with you. You never got angry. You never sought retaliation. You would look at yourself and say, "I'm moving forward."
Yeah,
that's amazing.
And I was hard on my cabinet, but I was hard on myself, right? And so it was easy for me to push because we were only going to be as sharp as one as we were together. And we were doing it for kids, right? They didn't have anyone sitting at the table. And I used to tell people this. CJ and Layla, they have a nana at the top. You're going to do right by them, right? But what about those kids that don't have a nana sitting at the top? I need to do right by them. Right. An example, and this was just an innocent example. We, in the district, in all school systems in the state of Michigan, we received a check for something we paid for like 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I remember my CFO, and he said, I'll have your check by the end of the day. And I said, well, what about everyone else? And he said, well, I'm going to get you yours. And I said, no, I tell you what, you hold my check. And when you give me that check, I'm going to know you gave every other person in this district theirs. Yeah. You give me my check last. Yeah. And then I'm going to know you close that loop. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And it was a nice, sizable check because I'd been in the system for so long, right? Yeah. And he said, are you sure? I said, absolutely. When you give me my check, I know you've given everyone else their check.
That's the term that comes to mind is servant leadership.
Absolutely.
Because of the way you cared for everybody, but yet you held them accountable.
Absolutely.
That wasn't soft leadership. Servant leadership isn't letting everybody do what they want to do. You held everybody accountable.
That's right.
To the organization, and it showed results. The students were doing better.
Yeah, and I think and being able to see. Right, where other people are coming from. So being able to show empathy, right? So Dana, my assistant, we went to Chicken Coop one day on Eastern and Burton. And the mom knew who I was.
Okay.
Clearly, I didn't know who she was. Oh, she was just going off about uniforms. And Dana says, say something. Don't let her talk about you like that. I said, oh, just ignore her, Dana. Oh, the mom just kept going hard on me. I mean, just. Dana said, I can't, we're not going to allow her to do this. You're going to say something. And I said, you know what? We're not going to say anything. So I sat down. Dana and I ate. And the mom came over then right to me. And I said, Mother, don't call me those names. Don't do that in front of her. Don't do that, right? Let's figure this out. But don't do that. And she started crying. Wow. And she said that she had spent her money buying new clothes. Okay. And here I came along and wanted her now to buy uniforms. Mm-hmm. And I told her, I said, well, let's figure, what would you suggest? She said, well, on picture day, she wanted her to wear her clothes on picture day and something else. I said, well, then let's do that, right? It's okay, right? So I gave her a hug and wiped her tears and told her, I said, you know what, let's see what we can do for uniforms. And we came through you guys, right? It's through our Student Advancement Foundation. But it's being able to understand that mom was struggling. She wanted to follow the rules, right? But I bought these school clothes. Now she's not going to be able to wear them, and I don't have uniforms, right? And so being able to come to the community to say, through the Student Advancement Foundation, listen, you guys, we need uniforms for these kids, right? And there's not one thing I've ever asked for that you guys didn't take care of. And so, but that came from a mom. That wasn't Teresa, right? I just happened to be the person to go and ask for uniforms. And because the mom said she wanted her to wear her clothes on the picture, well, that's great. That's great. Let her do it, right? The rules were not etched in stone that it's my way or no way, right? There was room to say, you know what, that made sense. I hadn't thought about that.
Right. But you went out, you were one of the so amazing in the fact that you were always in the community. Mm-hmm. You were always talking to people. You were always open to that. Mm-hmm. You were always asking questions and listening. Mm-hmm. And how do you think? You know, or I don't want to compare that leadership to others. I don't want to get into comparison
it's just thing. Different.
But how do you talk even a little bit more about how that helped you get to better decisions and increase your confidence in those decisions?
Because one, I don't think you can lead in a vacuum. I just don't believe that. Right. And because I'm from such a large family. Mm-hmm. There is always someone you can go to. Yeah. And just say, you know, what do you think? I'm thinking this. What do you think, right? Yeah. Now, you may not take their advice. You may not. But it's just a different perspective. And for me, being available, I never felt like I was just the GRPS superintendent. Right. I felt that I belonged to the community. Yeah. Right? And so if the media called, regardless of what time, I was always ready. I was always there because I felt that the community deserved to know what was going on. And then let's figure it out from here, right? So I made myself available, whether it's Dennis and I going out to dinner, right? And someone wanted to talk to me there. I intentionally went to certain grocery stores because not everyone was going to come to the board meeting, fill out a form on Wednesday for a meeting on Monday. Right? So let me just go. I went to beauty shops. I went to barber shops. I went to nail salons. I went down on Division by St. Andrews, right? Mm-hmm. Right? Let me just talk to you for a while. Tell me, what do you think? And people would say, I wish I would have had this, right, when I was in school. Or when I walked by, hey, you're the superintendent, right? Yeah. Or the young girl who said on Madison and Hall in the grocery store, and she said, are you my auntie? And I said, no. And she said, are you my granny's friend? I said, mm-mm. She said, you're something to me, right? Wow. It was a little black girl. Yeah. And I said, I'm your superintendent of schools, right? But to whoever she thought, it was a term of endearment. She thought that I was someone that cared, right? She saw me as a friendly face. And I think that's what it comes down to. You don't have to be I don't think you can lead and not be available. But that's just my style, right? And I also don't believe that you can serve Grand Rapids and not love us. Right. And not feel that you're a part of us, right? Yeah. That isn't something, there's no superintendent school that's going to teach you how to love people, right? To love the people that allow you to serve. But I felt that I was blessed to serve. People allowed me to serve them,
Yes.
Right? And it isn't like Dean train. I just saw someone from Dean, and she said, we miss you so much. It wasn't that I owned a bus. I never owned a bus, right?
Yeah.
But the bus driver saw me as their superintendent, right? Because I didn't make a difference, right? And I think that's what it takes to lead. If you're going to lead, you have to lead the entire community, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well,
right?
And just stop that for a second. I think, when I think of this podcast, we named it after my dad's book, Believe.
Believe,
and it's what you believe from the inside out. And you've just very quickly, very naturally, very Teresa-like, just articulated all those things about what you believed about leadership in a position like that. But it applies to everyone, and it's infectious. It's not what you said; it's what you did.
That's right.
I think that made the difference. Your level of availability, your level of engagement. I think you built something that I think the world is sorely missing. That's just trust in a relationship with somebody in a position of authority, especially in something like that with the public schools.
I think in every aspect. Funny story about your dad. I'm gonna just go off a little bit about your dad.
Okay. Yeah.
So, your dad, when he wrote his book, I know it. So when he wrote his book, it was at Schuler Bookstore, and I thought, I'm gonna put it on my calendar. I want to go and have him sign a book for me. So I went, and it was a long line. Stood in line, and when I got to the front, your brother said, he came over, he said, Teresa, you don't have to stand up. And I said, no, I'll wait. Because, of course, I'm chit-chatting with the people in line, so chit-chatting. And when I got up to the table, your dad looked at me, and he said, I know you from somewhere. And I said, tell me, where do you think you know me from? He said, I don't know, I know you from somewhere. And I said, well, I'm going to give you a hint. So I told him. He said, that's where I know you from. He said, my kids talk about you. So he signed my book. And a few days later, Jenny came to me at the ISD. She called. She's like, Teresa, where are you at? And I said, I'm at the ISD. She said, I'm going to stop by. I said, all right. She stopped by on her way home from work. And she said, Rich DeVos wants to give you a gift. And I said, oh, that's so sweet. I said, what is he giving me? And she said, what do you want? And I said, you know what? I said, I wanted to start this program. Didn't know how I was going to do it. It was when students in Detroit, they were having issues with their water. Okay. They got their water shut off. And they were getting water from the river. And I thought, oh, we can't do that. I thought, I wonder if my kids would know what to do. And so I told Jenny, I said, well, this is what I would like to do. Your dad gave me $300,000 to start an environmental program around the water for students in the Grand Rapids Public Schools. I was able to hire a fellow out of D.C., and for the next 4 years, we did recycling, we did clean water, we did everything environment off of your dad's money.
Did you really?
Yep.
Isn't
just a side story.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. But I'll go back and unpack it again. You developed a relationship, and you earned trust in a moment.
Yes.
Just in a moment.
Yes.
Because of who you are.
Yeah.
But that leadership, that's a unique gift.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so much fun to talk to you and see that, and to see how you apply. So let me. Yeah. We'll move on a little. I don't want to move on too far, but let's move on a little bit for what you're doing now. So you've established yourself as a very successful leader in public education as being the superintendent. And you've stayed in the space consulting, but you've stayed in the community.
That's right.
And you have maintained a level of leadership in the community. I think most people would still think you're the superintendent of the Grand Rapids Public Schools if they saw you. Or they would think you're the mayor, or they would think you're something, right. because you just haven't given up being engaged.
No. So people still introduce me as the superintendent. And I have to say, I'm not the superintendent.
It's been 4 years now.
Right. It's like I'm not the superintendent. But one of the things, there's still so much work to be done. And I look at my life that for as long as God continues to use me to help someone, I will do that. right? I'm never leaving Grand Rapids. I love Grand Rapids.
Right.
And I still believe in my heart of hearts that I have something to offer.
Yes.
I'm still a hard worker,
Yes.
right? Dedicated. And I believe that I have been allowed to sit in spaces that others can't, and yet I can represent them, right? So I never forget. My family, who I'm married to, my friends, people in this community, right? So I can say, now what would they want, right? When we talk about the organization that I helped start, which is Thrive and Prosper,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So if we just talk about that for just a minute, we called it Opportunity for All. Well, actually, we came around and didn't even have a name.
We didn't have a name. Did we?
It was just, you know what? We came together, 6 or 7 of us, and said, how do we help people?
Yeah.
Right? So we had the same goal. And whether it's around education or civic engagement or finding jobs or what, but it was the same thing. How do we help people, right? Yeah. And so sort of this group of us bad news bears, we came together once again, right? Got the band back together to say, how can we do this for people? And we looked at the research, but it came down to if we can change these 7 areas for people,
Right.
wow, we can change generations.
Right.
Right? And so we've been at it now, what, 3 years?
3 years now.
3 years. And just really looking for a better way. So whether that's around entrepreneurship, getting jobs, right? Civic engagement. But I think, Doug, one of the things that is unique to so many of us, the 6 or 7 of us, there's really about 10 of us
Right.
that over the years, maybe 12, that we've worked so closely together, is we are honest about race. We are honest about opportunities. We are honest about lack of opportunities.
Talk
right?
about that even more.
Yeah, because see, I think that's what's missing. I think people can get so, and it doesn't help where we are in this country right now, but people can get so offended around race, right? We've not allowed that to get in the way of our friendship, right? We talk about issues, Black people and white people, Hispanic people, imagine how they feel, or talk about job opportunities, having 2 sets of rules, right? We talk about the criminal justice system. We talk about how do we help people, right, to change the life. So I think those are all so important, and I just don't know that that's there for so many. It's when you called and said, Teresa, do you have another round in you? I want to help people. Yeah. You called me. Yeah. And I told you, you know what, I do, but we're not going to be talking about this in 10 years, Doug, right? Yeah. This is the deal. Yeah. We're going to do something.
We're going to do something now.
We're going to do it now. And what I said to you, if not us, who? Right? Who has the relationship with a Doug DeVos or with, whether it's Fred Keller or some of the other folks that's in there with us, to say, oh, wait a minute, that's not going to work for Black people. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You have to have already made the deposits in order to make the withdrawals when it comes down to something like this, right?
Trust.
And so trust, it comes down to trust. And I don't think, and I didn't, and I shared with the group, and we don't have 5-10 years for people to build these relationships. No, if not us, then who? Yeah. We have to do this for people. And so that becomes my push to do it right now, right? Yeah. We're not going to be talking about this in 10 years. We're going to make a change, right? We want the people in Grand Rapids and Kent County, because it's not just Grand Rapids. We have people up in Sparta. And listen, people are struggling, right? And so how do we create opportunities for all? And I think that to me is what connected me with Thrive and Prosper. Yeah. Like I told people, I may have started this 3 years ago because of Doug. I didn't stay because of Doug, right? I stayed because I believe in us. Right? I believe in what we can do for people. It's the same with education. Education is one piece of a community. I'm not an educator necessarily by trade. I'm a public administrator. I went to school to become a public administrator, right? And so I see things through a different lens. I believe in community. I believe in people. Yeah. And I believe the answer, therefore, is in community and in people.
When you say that, and I'm going to ask you to keep talking about that, but one of the things I've always thought about, and again goes back to believe, when you believe in something, when you believe in people, when you believe in our community, when you believe in the opportunity for everybody to be successful, and there needs to be an opportunity created and an opportunity leaned into and worked for by somebody, it drives a set of behaviors. And it drives whether it's a work plan or whether it's just passion projects that come together in a framework. But you have this ability to build trust and relationships and speak truth about any subject. As you've said, that's not going to work, or this is going to work, or this is what we need to do.
That's right.
And you've earned such trust and respect in your relationships that you've been able to really, but you've used it to help people.
Absolutely. I've never asked for anything, and you know this.
Yeah.
I've never asked for anything for myself, ever.
You just work.
I work.
You just go to work.
I go to work. But I was raised to do that. Yeah. But I will ask for other people, right? Probably the thing that I hate more than anything in the world, I am not kidding, is being on capital campaigns, and I'm on 5 right now. I hate asking for money.
Yeah.
It is the absolute worst thing to me. But I wasn't raised, we weren't allowed to even have, you can ask for a glass of water, right? And these are my mother's and sisters and brothers and our relatives. My dad didn't allow that, right? It was only in my mother's sister's home, and she would say, "Don't look at your dad. You can hear." But we just weren't allowed to do that.
Wow.
I had 10. I'll take care of 10.
Yep.
Whatever you need, I have it for 10, right? And so we were not allowed, and so I've never gotten over that. Now, I do it, but I do it on behalf of children, and I'm never comfortable with it, right? But it's always on behalf of kids, never for myself.
Sure.
Because I do believe that given an opportunity, I just believe that people can be successful. I think that they've not necessarily had the opportunity. It's like when we started with the opportunity for our Thrive and Prosper. Not everyone's going to need money.
Right.
Some people, they're going to need an attorney, or they're going to need you to look at the business plan. They're going to need something else. They may be so close, right? It may be 3 or 4 things. They may need your network. They may need Teresa to come in and say, you know what, let me mentor you, right?
Yeah.
Have you thought about this? I think that people sometimes are closer than we think, but we have to make something so large small, and that's hard to do. That is hard to do, which was one of the things I was able to do in the school system. Take something so large and make it smaller, right? And I think with Thrive and Prosper, that's what we're trying to do, right? If we help 10, they may be able to go help another 10, right? But it could be an easy fix for these 10, right?
But you got to know the 10.
You got to know the 10.
And you've got to know, and so many times it gets boiled down, and it'll be in most public discussions on any topic, it comes down to money.
Yeah.
But what you're saying, it's not. I would agree the same way.
Right.
It's not. Is money a component? Sure, you need some financial resources. But it's so many other things.
Man, listen, for some people, it's soft skills. It's helping them with the resume. It's what we talked about the very first conversation we had around Opportunity for All. It's looking at your HR practices.
Yes.
Right?
Every company of the Grand Rapids Chamber of Commerce.
Absolutely. It's not, you can't tell me that you need an associate's degree to be a custodian. There's something wrong with the practice here.
Yeah.
Let's see who's doing the interview. So I think it's things like that. And sometimes you have CEOs, they're so far above, so high above, they don't know. Yeah. You just keep getting the same people, right?
Yeah.
And I think that if we can show that, and it's not in a blame or shame game, we just have to be able to peel this back. I think that's what it's going to take. We can get a lot of people moving in the right direction. We have to help them get there, right?
You said something I want to ask you to expand on. It's not about blaming or shaming. It's just about doing the work, peeling back and just moving forward. And so many times today, in the cancel culture world, you have to, you're from this background, you have to do this, or that background, you have to do that. You never let a boundary get in your way.
Never. Nothing will stop me.
And you've never blamed or shamed anybody.
Nope.
You just said, let's get together and go forward.
How do we make this happen, right?
How do we make this?
I think because there is a way to get to yes, right? And if I start with that, how do we get to yes? How do we create a win-win, right? I don't have to lose for you to win.
Yeah.
No, let's both win.
Yeah.
Right? But in order to do that, I can't blame you. I can't shame you. Right? And it's what we say in the group. No, that's not going to work if you do that. People will shut down on you, whether it's the truth or not.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They'll shut down. And then we're not going to get anywhere. And so we have to work at trying to be open and honest and say, how do we get to yes? Right?
Your story of being at the chicken coop with that mom about uniforms,
Yes.
I don't know what the timing was, but I'm guessing it's less than 10 or 20 minutes that you went from a mom who was angry to you to a mom who was crying. And just needed help and had found a friend. And
gave me the biggest hug. And even when we got in the car, Dana said, why did you let her do you that way? And I told her, I said, but Dana, I said, sweetheart, don't do that. Don't be like that, Dana. Yeah. I said, she didn't mean any harm. Mom just, and in the end, Dana just shook her. And I love Dana. She shook her. She was like, why did you let her do that to you? And the funny thing is, the mom kept talking. She was getting louder and louder. Dana said, she's talking about you. And I said, I know it. I said, just ignore her, Dana. She got louder and louder. And then the mom, because I ignored her, she came right in front of me. And I said, oh, sweetheart, don't do that. Don't talk about me like that. Right? But I could have taken that another whole direction.
Exactly.
Don't do that. Don't call me names in front of your kid. Don't do that. Don't talk about me.
Yeah.
Right?
But she had a hurt. And you, by your engagement with her,
come on now,
she got her hurt on the table. She found a friend, and not only found a friend, but a friend helped her find a solution. And it was a win-win solution.
And for other kids. I guarantee you, there were other parents in the district that, well, like the kids did, they put a no uniform, sign with my face on it. But I'm sure there were other mothers who felt the same way, other dads, right? Well, yeah, sure. My granddaughter was happy when she didn't have to wear a uniform for picture day. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right? But that mom was able to get through her frustration with me to say really what it was about.
Yeah.
And look how many thousands and thousands and thousands of children we helped with those uniforms.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was the community that came together to help me with the problem that I didn't even know I had.
Yeah. But you were willing to open yourself and be vulnerable and be available.
Yes.
And listen to find a win-win solution. You didn't put up the barricades. You didn't create a barrier.
Nope.
You didn't say, I'm the superintendent.
Right.
This is my decision, and I've done this. You said you listened, and you changed.
Yeah.
Changed the impact for so many people.
For kids, right?
Yeah.
For parents, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's you. Now, there are times, that's what I would tell the cabinet, right? I have 51% of the vote.
Yeah.
I do have 51%.
That's right.
Because at the end of the day, the buck is going to stop. I'm the only one that's going to be in front of that camera. I've got to be able to explain what we did for parents and for staff, right? So I did hold 51% of the vote. That's leadership.
And that absolutely, you got to have the courage to use it.
When you become superintendent, you do it.
You know, you were saying earlier about all the work that you do and have done and how you focus on others, but the community recently had a chance to get together and focus on you.
Yes.
And I'm sure it was one of the more embarrassing or more times that you've had, but you won the community award for the greatest community service in the community of Grand Rapids at the Econ Club, the Slike House Award that was given to you recently. And talk a little bit about how when the tables were turned, what did that represent?
Yeah, and you know me well, so you know that's hard for me to accept that. One, I was absolutely shocked, like, to get an award like that for just being who I am, for just doing the work, right? And I'm sure there are thousands of people in this community that deserved it equally as much, but it was such an honor, right? An honor. For common sense and just doing the right thing. But yeah, it was a big deal. I was really shocked. And I got a Tom Brady signed jersey that came to my house the next day.
There you go.
Right?
There you go.
Yeah. You know, and it's nice to be recognized. It was so nice to be recognized because it isn't like you're recognized for your money or for your making. It's really for the time and talent and the treasure, right, that you offer. Never in my wildest dreams growing up on Union Street, right? I just want to just do right by people, right? But to be recognized by your peers and by your community, I think that's what meant so much to me, right? It's my community that said that, right? It's not that I put my own name in, or I never would in a million years would have thought that, right? But for people in my community to think that I was worthy of something like that, when I just tried to do the right thing by people, right?
But isn't it wonderful that just trying to do the right thing by people and just going to work every day results in people seeing it and saying thank you, and we want you to receive this award so others can see your example and try to be like Teresa.
Yeah, when I am the first to say I've not figured this out, right? I've not figured it out. I don't have the answers. Not perfect. I just wanted to help people. I will say there is probably no one that loved those children and staff more than me, right?
I mean,
that's even now. I love the city of Grand Rapids my whole life. I love the school system, but I love education. So whether it's the Catholic schools, the Christian schools, the charter schools, it doesn't matter to me, right? And so just being blessed to even have the Promise Zone, right? For all kids, for all kids, right? What a blessing. Just to be able to give that back to the community, right?
And you've talked about education as being an equalizer, you know, because as you said, you know, there's an opportunity over here, but maybe not over here, and there's an opportunity here, but not there, where education can start to prepare somebody for opportunity wherever it may be.
And it doesn't have to be a college education, right? Because college isn't for everyone, right? But if we create opportunities in our school systems, pre-K through 12, for some kids, that's what they need. They want to go to work. And as we continue to get employers to create programs for professional development so people can, there's a career ladder, right? That is how we get people to this middle class. You don't have to do that in higher education. I believe in education. Don't get me wrong, but I also believe it's not for everyone, right? And I don't want people to come after me for saying that, but it's what I believe in my heart, right? Well, college isn't for everyone. You don't have to go and get a 2-year or 4-year. If you want to get a certificate, great. For some people, you don't have to get that either, and you're still going to be okay. You're still going to be okay.
Because if you take the traits, the characteristics that you've been talking about, anybody can do that.
Yes.
Anybody can be available. Everybody can be available.
Absolutely.
Everybody can listen. Everybody can engage with somebody, even if they're not naturally inclined to it. It might take a little work, but you can engage with somebody. You can listen. You can ask questions. You can learn from somebody. It doesn't have to be in a classroom setting. There's so many ways to do it, and that's what your life has demonstrated.
That's right, and help them out. So if you see your colleague doing the wrong thing, calling in sick, I can't get a ride, you know what, how can I help you, right? How can I help you? Or don't call in sick, maybe you can do this. Some people just don't know that they have other tools in their toolbox. And so instead of judging, right, and casting stone, just try to help them. Just show them a different way. There's a better way to do this, right?
It's just, I love these times of just being with you and listening to you, because you know in our relationship it's consistent. Your passion for others, especially the kids, our kids in Grand Rapids, and your passion for everyone in Grand Rapids, as you say, throughout the community, throughout the county, in lots of different situations and lots of different backgrounds, that we can have thriving communities and prosperous people thriving.
And we have to believe that we will have thriving communities, right? We will have, because we care enough to help people get there, right? Whatever lot you feel you were cast or born or raised in, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't. We can help you get to the next level,
Yeah.
right? And I think that that's our job. I think that's what we have been tasked to do. Those of us that are blessed, I think, is to reach back and help someone else.
Reach a hand out and say, let's go, let's do this. But
Listen.
It's let's do this together.
That's right. Reach one, teach
It's not
one.
just a handout because someone's better than somebody else. No. We're
all in this
nobody's
together.
perfect.
That's right.
We're
None
all,
of
and
us,
we're all in
right?
this together.
We're all in this together. What do you need to help get over that, right? There are barriers that we all have, and someone had to help us. And I think that that's our role, is to reach back and help others.
Yeah. Teresa, we're kind of wrapping things up here, and I can't believe I'm kind of keeping an eye on the time, and it flies by. We could talk another hour.
Yeah.
I mean, we could just keep rolling and going through stories. But you're, and I'll just keep flowing how much I appreciate and respect and just love you for who you are. Do you have a kind of a closing thought of you said for those we've been blessed. You were blessed. You had a great family.
Yeah.
And you had some people who created opportunities. And I love the fact that you said you never applied for a promotion. People just sought you out.
Yeah.
But I know you worked hard in every one of those situations as a little girl in your family to a student in from kindergarten on through to just starting in the public schools. Just kind of maybe some closing thoughts or a story that you may have of how people who are listening or watching can maybe take away for themselves too from your example.
Yeah, I think that I would want people to know you don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And we've all made mistakes. But I'm going to tell you, when you're working hard, there are people watching you. Yeah. You don't even think that they are. Even if it's your kids, right? Someone's watching you. They're paying attention. And I think that I would tell people to seek those folks out so they can help them, right? Mm-hmm. Go to your boss or go to your employer and just share if you want a different opportunity, right? I think that you would be amazed at how open people are to helping you when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, right? You can say, I don't know how to do that, but you know what? I'd like to learn. I'd like to try something. I think people are more available and open to something like that now than ever before. And so I would just encourage people to seek out opportunities, as many opportunities as you can. I think to get to whatever it is you want. 2024, we're almost to the new year. And I think you just have to put in the atmosphere, this is my year. Yeah. This is my year. And I'm going to do whatever it takes, right? Yeah. And then go after that. Yeah.
Have that positive attitude in a New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
Well, you have tremendous belief in this community, and your behaviors, your life, really, indeed, your whole life here in Grand Rapids has been about believing in people, but aligning those behaviors to help other people. And I feel I can count myself as one of those. You have helped me in my life, and just to watch you and to see you, what you've done, and to learn from you, and to just smile. When I've watched you do some of these things, I'm like, wow, I wish if I could do it like that. If I would have that same level of engagement, the same level of vulnerability that Teresa did, and how you found your way to win-win solutions. I'm grateful.
Thank you. I'm blessed to have both of you and Maria. Just, your entire family just took me in right in the beginning, as so many others did in this community. Again, it's the only way that I was able to lead in the Grand Rapids Public Schools. It came through you guys in the community. So many of you came, right? We didn't have music instruments, right? A group of people said, sure, we can have music. Right? And so now here, I think of my granddaughter, Layla's in the 7th grade. She's been playing the violin since kindergarten. And so it continues, right? It's those gifts and opportunities that people in this community have been willing to give for children. It shows. I'm blessed to be able to lead, but I also am blessed to be a part of this community. I don't take it for granted.
Well, we're blessed that you are a part of this community. Teresa, thank you so much for your time. We just love having this opportunity to be together and just giving a chance to really kind of just hear from you and to tell your story. And I'm sure that others, all those who are listening, are going to enjoy it as well.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.